Dude, hey, good evening, everyone. Sorry for bothering you this late with this live talk, but I don't want to leave it till next day or the day after. I just want to reflect on the horrible terrorist attack that took place last night in London, Ontario, and we read and we saw and we watch all these horrible details that's coming out. And I think we all, as Canadian, we are saddened and we are really mourning the loss of pretty much entire family except one person, one kid survived this heinous attack. This attack it wasn't really on individual; it was an attack on all of us, whether we are Muslim Canadian or we are Canadian or we are human. In the end, these kind of attacks, these kind of terrorist attacks, should be condemned. First and foremost, I'd like to start my my talk with, uh, as we say بالعربي, sending الرحمة لل للناس اللي توفت. نتمنى رب العالمين يرحمهم ويصبر أهلهم ونحتسبهم عند الله شهداء. We send our deep condolences to the family. I can assure you, the Muslim community in Canada, from what I'm gathering, very devastated by this. Muslim community in Calgary, being part of the Canadian community, so many of us are very disturbed by this. I'm here today representing myself and myself only. So I don't speak on behalf of nobody. And when I say we, I don't mean like I'm a spokesman for anybody. I'm just using the term nahna, which is we in Arabic. But we do need to have a frank and open conversation. I decided to do my talk in English because I do have my Arabic channels, and usually it's very active there. But this is not about us Arabic talking thing. This is about talking about Canada and talking about our country that I feel it's really shifting in the wrong directions, whether we like it or not. I'm not trying to play fear mongering. I'm really just want to talk. I want to vent out. And also, I want to give the opportunity to people out there to speak up their mind as well. And that's why I used the question as a Canadian, as a Muslim Canadian, do you feel safe like any other Canadian should? I start to doubt this because there's so many incidents happens in the last years. I don't want to say 10 years or 5 years or 4 years or 6 years, but recently we're going to be not only a blind, even if you're blind, you will read and you will hear about what's going on, whether in Canada, in North America, in the world. And I think we all caught in between. What I mean by all these people who really want nothing to do with radicalizations or nothing to do with terrorism, nothing to do with killings, nothing to do with sanities. We want and we wish like peace and harmony for everyone, whether same faith, different faith, same political group or different political parties. It doesn't really matter. But I have so much to talk myself. But I want to give this opportunity not only for me but also to other people. If there's anybody out there who would like to share her or his thought with me tonight, under the banner, under the question is, do you still feel safe as a Canadian just for being a Muslim, just like anybody else? So that's the questions. I'll be I'll be I'll be lying to myself if I completely ignored what's going on and all these changes that's taking place. As much as I would like to talk myself, please feel free to join me. The link is on the top. Just click on the link and you're more than welcome to share your thought with me on this. What really got me tonight is the thought is I remember I have so many argument with different people throughout those last 25 years since 1997. I have to say this, since 1997 with the two towers attack back in 1997 and all that stuff. Every time we hear there's a terrorist attack, all of a sudden you feel like you have to not only denounce it, but also you have to prove that you're not part of that and you're not guilty of this. Just because somebody committed a terrorist act from who knows which country and who knows what's background and who knows what's the motive, and we don't even know. Just because the name is Muhammad or the name is Abd or the name is Khalid or the name is whatever that quote unquote Arabic name, all of a sudden we've been all labeled. Whether we like it or not, we all been labeled as terrorists. Just recently, not even 10 days ago, remember this terrorist ass? You remember this here in Calgary when the guy just, so-called a road rage, and he just the first word came out of his mouth. You're F terrorist ass. Okay? So that's something that we deal with and we have to deal with for so many years. And we understand some people just get frustrated, and some people just associate the way we look with what they see on the movies through all this brainwashing for the last 70 years and plus, or maybe more. They associate the terrorism in a certain way. They associate the look on our faces and our body language with terrorism. Okay, and I said so many times, and I have it from my own personal experience, where people just the way you look, just because you look Middle Eastern, all of a sudden you've been labeled as a terrorist. Okay, I understand. I have to give people you have to understand. People are afraid. People are frustrated. I understand all this. It's not that I agree. I said I understand. I understand where's that coming from. There is consistent messages left, right, and center that's been taking place for who knows, it seems like to me forever, to connect terrorism with Middle Eastern / Muslim. And a lot of people, they don't even know there's a lot of Middle Eastern. They are not even Muslim. They're Christians. And they are maybe have no faith, or they have a different faith. They have Middle Eastern Jews, for that matter. And we remember after 9/11, there are so many people who got killed, and they are not even Arabs or Muslim. They were from South Asia. So this is already established. Terrorism / Middle Eastern / Muslims. And there's so many reasons for people to think this way. But I'm going to ask, and that's why I'm making this speech in English. So because I don't want to talk to my Arabic buddies, I don't want to talk to my quote unquote Muslim friends. I want to talk to everybody's out there, especially those who are not really related to Arabs or to the Muslims Canadian, as much as they are just Canadian belong to the Canadian community. The questions I have for you, and I'm going to give you so many examples today. The questions I have for you is why, when there is an act of terrorism in the world, especially North America, because we're close to it, we're related to this, why all of a sudden I have to make an extra effort to condemn / to disconnect myself or my background or my faith and denounce it. Okay, that's one thing. And then the other hand is when we see all this repeated attacks under so the banners of Islamophobia. Okay, and especially here in Canada, and this is like we're horrified by the incidents, by the latest terrorist attack against Muslims. I'm not going to say incidents. I'm not going to say a mass murderer, and I'm really offended. Why even it's like it seems to me like over and over and over and over. Always you have to find when there's an incident like what happened here last night in London, Ontario. Why I'm reading left, right, center on the media and everywhere, every phrases and every excuses that I can read, except active terrorism. So this is not, I didn't invent this question, but I really need, and I'm asking for my fellow Canadian non-Muslims to give me an answer. Why it's so hard, and you have to be so patient when there is a mass shooting of 50 or 60 people, just like in Las Vegas, if you remember, and the guy just went out on and killed 60, 70 people, whatever, and that's considered a mass shooting, versus a guy who in if you remember this a few years ago, 2006, I guess, in Edmonton, when a terrorist attack took place by a guy who took in a U-Haul and he just drove and just want to kill a police officer, and we all watched that, and that was a horrific, horrible attack. We all condemned that. But I was so shocked back then. Within hours, the president of the United States called the Prime Minister of Canada to condemn that act. Okay, which is a one-person, attacking a police officer or running away from the police officer or right to attack a police officer with his U-Haul truck. Versus when there is a 60 or 70 or 60 people in Las Vegas got killed and shot and in a horrific scene, and that's a mass murder. A mass murder is not a terrorist attack. So why is there so much emphasis on the terrorist attack only when there is related to a Muslim attacker, and there is so much emphasis on when there is non-Muslim, it's a mass murderer, it's a mentally sick person, it's radical, it's like a white supremacist guy. It's all kind of excuses, except no condemning under the banner of terrorist attack. And today, I heard it on the news. In order to call it a terrorist attack, it has the killing, there's going to be a political motive behind it, and there's going to be some kind of coordinations, even if it's a one person. So I'm not really convinced. I'm not convinced on the political side. But what really shocked me today, just like after every incident in North America, what really shocked me is the reading and the responses and the reading and the commenting that I'm reading from so many different people, trying to, I don't want to say justify, because nobody's going to justify this. Nobody is going to justify this, but trying to defend and find excuses for this act. Okay. So I really ask myself, when a 20 years old person, I mean, this is a kid for me, 20 years old, still just 2 years after his adulthood, went on it, and no criminal record, no nothing, they've never been flagged before, have that feeling to drove his truck literally, and just not only like try to kill one person, the entire family. Imagine this: 5 people walking in the pedestrian side and walking on sidewalk of the street or coming to the light whatever the exact things that happen. And a 20 years old person will just we just go with the prior planning and deliberate intentions to kill. The question that really I'm going to ask myself here, is it really matter if we call it terrorist act or we call it mass murder? Is it matter? Obviously it is. And I want to know if anybody from the listeners here, why you think we're not really calling the spade a spade? Why is it? Like, what's in it? Like, why, if you call this, and I know it's going to take investigation, all the stuff, it's going to take investigation, no doubt. And there's I believe in that. But also, even if it's going to take investigation, I just want to ask why, when there is a terrorist attack by somebody you name Muhammad or Ahmad or Abdul or this and that, like within hours or minutes or thank God, not even second. We don't hear this second, but at least we heard in minutes and hours and less than a few days. Right away, this is a radicalized citizen by who knows what, and this is a terrorist attack. And why? When is whether the attack and the mosque in the 2017. Remember that one? I mean, even if we heard there's excuses to try to find some linear to get this criminal, this terrorist out of jail or just get to reduce sentences. And this guy here, 20 years old, Nathaniel, it just like, this is another mass murder that has the potential of being a terrorist attack. So really, whomever listening to me, I have a guy here in Calgary named Bob. Can't say his last name. He hold me responsible. Why I do not condemn every terrorist attack that take place around the world. If somebody in Africa, they have a political struggle, or who knows what the situation there, and somebody killed somebody in Africa, he called it terrorist attack, and he want me to apologize for it, and he want me to feel guilty of it, and he want me to condemn it if I want to be a Canadian, full-fledged Canadian. Otherwise, I'm not Canadian. And if I say I condemn it, and I condemn that attack, he would call me, you're not a Muslim, because you're not. If you're a Muslim, you're not supposed to condemn the killing of kafir, which is you can't win it both ways. So why, when I have to be, or not I have to be, why when there's like narratives out there that every time there is something like this happen, we feel as a Muslims in living in this country, and I speak for myself, and I'm sure I have some people who out there feel the same way. So when I say we, I just want to make a highlight. When I say we, I don't mean all, because I know there's some we out there. They don't like when I say we, because they don't think we and we are we. So her we has nothing to do with my we, and I think people understand what I'm talking about. So there's a people out there may want us to feel that if there is an attack anywhere, I have to feel like guilty, and I have to defend myself that I'm innocent / I'm not even, I have to exaggerate how I'm angry and how I'm sad and how I'm horrified by the act of one person, because he doesn't represent Islam, he doesn't represent Muslims, this is whatever. I have to make that argument, okay? But now with this situation here, or even back in whatever this hate motivated incidents that's taken place in Calgary, in Red Deer, in Edmonton, in Saskatchewan, in Toronto, and Montreal, I mean, you name it, it's everywhere. I mean, that doesn't really lead to a killing, but at least it's. I mean, the hate. It's just astronomical. It just hit. It just go. It just. If we say 100%, who knows if maybe in 1,000 already. I really don't know. But this hate things, it just hit in the roof. So for me, I have to prove to so many people around me that I have nothing to do with this, and Muslims, and this is not Islam, and this is this, and this is that, and make an extra effort to disconnect ourselves from that. And now when we see these horrible acts and horrible, literally, it has all the blueprint or the footprint of terrorist act. On the other side, it's just people trying to find excuses for this act. Not excuses to kill, excuses not to call it a terrorist, excuses not to jump the gun and try to use a stronger word against it, or try to make it sound like a white supremacist, or try to make it sound like extreme radical right or left or whatever. So I think honestly, there's the whole things about this terrorism stuff. I'm not buying it no more. I'm not convinced that this is, it's going to be an easy sell for people, because even with radicalization or even terrorism, 20 some years ago was always associated with Muslims, or Muslims look like individuals, okay, or related to any incidents for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And if I want to talk deeper, I can go way deeper into this and connect this terrorism into the conflict in the Middle East, where I literally believe what the root cause of the whole phenomena of terrorism is the real the struggle and the problems that exist in the Middle East. And for so many years, people just want to shy away from it. So let's say, even if the 9/11 was committed by the group of 19 terrorists that happened to be all Muslims, and the before and after and all this stuff, but for the last 10 years, we have so many incidents worldwide, and I'm just going to talk about Canada. There's so many incidents, and the last one or the latest one, and I'm sure they're going to say maybe it's not a terrorist act. For me, it's a terrorist act. Why is terrorist act? Because this guy, he didn't just go and just because he wanted to kill this family particular. No, he wanted to kill this family literally because they are Muslims. Simple. Is that enough reason to call it a terrorist? For me, it is. It's a one person. Oh, don't tell me he's crazy. I mean, I don't know about all the terrorists that non-Muslims are, or they have a mental illness. And all the terrorists that there are Muslims, they are terrorists. Nobody told me once there's a terrorist act by a Muslim turned to be just like he's a mentally ill. There's no room for you as a Muslim to be mentally ill. You're only one room for you. You are a terrorist. And because you're a terrorist, and the second one is terrorist, and the third one is terrorist, now all of you are terrorists in our eyes. And then all of you have to prove to us that you are not terrorists like them by exaggerating your denouncement and your condemnation to all these acts. Okay? And we are minorities here. We're not even, as a Muslims, not even 3%. Okay? And by the way, I have another fight. Don't think like I'm fighting one side. I have a fight on the other side. And I don't want to get into that because I don't want to diverge it from the conversation. Even though I lost my thoughts. Just let me just have a sip of coffee. I didn't even look. So for the last, who knows, years, and I said 5, 10, 20, 30, whatever. Most of the news reported terrorism related to people that connected to a Muslim faith, Muslim people. Muslim look like, or I should say, look like a Muslim, which is, I was called once, I look like terrorist just because the way I look. But in the last 10 years, the whole things of terrorism is really shifted in completely different directions, whether in New Zealand, whether in Europe, whether everywhere. The question is, and this is my question is, when are we going to hear the terms radicals, anti-Muslims, if we want to call it that way? I don't want to say radical white supremacies, radicals, whatever. But there is literally a major crisis that really, I say a volcano that really boiling beneath our community. And it's only directed and it's only allowed to vent out toward Muslims / Muslims like. Okay? So I don't want to compare Muslims Islamophobia with other form of racism and discriminations, but we have other minority groups that they are suffering like us minority groups as well. I mean, us minority, not the wee. So you are the wee one. Stay on the side, please. I'm not talking to you. Like a minority has been subject to oppressions or discrimination, but they have so many laws and so many tools, and even the country will just stand immediately to condemn any act against this group of people or that group of people or that group of people. But it seems to me, honestly, and I'm being honest with myself and maybe disagree with me, but it only when it comes to hate or / crime against I don't want to say Muslim, because honestly I'm not buying this, but I have to be a realistic. But when it comes to any act of violence or terrorism or discriminations or hate against Muslims, it seems to me like I don't want to say it's okay, but it's like I can understand why you're frustrated or why you hate this kind of people. I can understand. Like I can give you so many. I'm just going to give you and allow me to just show you some samples from today. Just samples from today's. Some of the reactions of people about what happened or how they seen it, and it's just like really, it's just sad for me. Just give me 1 second, please. So this is just like this is like mental illness. Oh my goodness! I mean, just want to give you this, and this is a quick one. Person. Due to Muslims. Oh wow! So this is like double. This is like a double Islamophobic. So it's not only justifying the killing, but also justifying the killing plus making it feel good because the guy is defending his country and he's afraid or he feared. Like what's the Muslims doing in this country? So this is a today, just a few samples. Don't be surprised it's mental health issues. So you see how you see all these comments that I'm putting out there for you. It's all in one direction. Given a break to this act and try to find excuses for it and not try to condemn it. Okay. So the questions I have for you here is this: if there is, God forbid, the terrorist act by Ali or Hussein or Abdullah or whomever or what, okay, and it's a terrorist act, and I'm not saying it's not a terrorist act. Let's say there's like a terrorist act or even whatever. Do you think I can try to bring the same argument to the conversation? No, I can't. No, I can't. So to conclude, my Oh, 30 minutes. Oh, that's way too long. But to conclude, my part is I think this terrorism, it's something in the past, the way we understand it. Terrorism now, it's not only a specialty of Muslim faith follower, because somebody really want us to believe that way. Somebody really tried to convince us it's only Muhammad and Ali and Abdul and Hussein are committing these acts. I think our community, the Canadian community, the civilized community, need to really have the guts and to face it and try to, and I say not to be too diplomatic about it, okay, uh, and just because if we do not address it properly, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. People are angry, people are afraid, people are concerned, and people will not just going to sit quiet and be on enough. We have enough problems in our lives, in our work, in our world, and all this stuff. And freedom expression, as, and I'm so sorry to say this, as the Conservative Party of Canada tried to put out there, is this, protect your freedom, freedom, freedom. I think this is a really all misleading. For me, this is a misleading banners, okay? Because it's only freedom expression when you have something to vent out against minorities, and specifically if it happens that you're a minority from the Middle East, and specifically if you are a Muslims, and specifically if you are a woman with wearing a Muslim traditions. Okay, so then you have the freedom of speech. This is not a hate crime. This is not a terrorist things. This is not like really whatever. Okay, so that honestly, if we want to be truthful to our values, and I'm not talking here about Canadian values, human values, we have to rephrase, rewrite, and redefine these words. Our politicians, again, so the political game, need to have the leaderships and the guts to at least acknowledge it, and not only acknowledge it, but also address solutions for it. I mean, anti-Semitism, it's, we all know the consequences of that. I don't think Islamophobes is far away from that. I don't think anti-Asian is far away from that. So we should have the same level of accountabilities to everyone who discriminate or attack or kill based on, based on just because whether for the religion, the gender, the nationality, and all the stuff. So I think really it's about time to level everything and treat everybody's equal when it comes to holding people accountable, and also putting everybody under the same laws to protect people, all people, not only certain kind of people, not only the powerful people, not only the people who have access to influence and all this stuff. If this is really want to try to say work toward a solution instead of just try to find a political phrases that's gonna make us look like we understand, and we're gonna score a point. And I don't think that we need that. We need actions. We need leadership, and maybe I should say. Let me. I have a friend here would like to jump in. Hey, Shoaib.
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, son?
Walaikum salam, Shoaib. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah. How are
Sorry,
you?
I wasn't even looking to the comments and stuff. Honestly, I just want to say it. I just want to vent. I want to say what I have in mind and heart, and I want people to hear it. So thanks for joining me, Suhaib.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was just listening in. I just wanted to jump. You're talking about the the political rhetoric and some of those things. So I think
Right.
Obviously this is an issue. I think for me personally, it's one that's like very near and dear to me. Being seeing things firsthand, being in Alberta, where we've seen multiple acts of Islamophobia against women, random acts in parking lots, right? Women getting their hijab torn off, violence against
Right.
women. But I was just thinking when you were talking about the political aspect, like the political angle, and how this issue has been politicized recently, right?
Right.
A good example I was just thinking about was M103, right? Like was the motion that the member of Parliament Iqra Khalid put forward to address Islamophobia, right?
Right.
And so really, this was an issue that it should not have been a divisive issue. It should have been something very straightforward. It should have been something that probably got broad, party support or broad support from across all party lines, right? However, there was multiple, individuals from certain political parties that wouldn't support the motion, that wanted to take out the word Islamophobia or not single out Muslims and Islamophobia. They wanted to make it more broad in terms of just racism in all its forms or hate against all groups, right? Even though there had been motions that were brought and rightfully so to address anti-Semitism and other things, right? But I think the Prime Minister, his reasoning for supporting and pushing for M103, and which was also a non-binding motion. It wasn't a new law that was being put in place. It was just beginning the process to study Islamophobia and to take action to address these issues, right? And it was based on that data and evidence, right? It was based on I think they were basing it between 2013 and 2016. There was the acts of Islamophobia had been increasing steadily in Canada, whereas disproportionately compared to other groups, right? So
Right.
Calling it what it was and calling Islamophobia what it was, and I think that's an important point to. I'm not here to take partisan shots at anyone, but I think one of the things that needs to be addressed, and it's such a sad incident that occurred today, right? But I think one of the things that can come out of this is that we as a society and as a country, it's not just the government's job, right? It's us as Muslims. It's a broad spectrum approach to address Islamophobia and to speak to and to address some of the root causes of this, right? Because as you were just saying,
So Shoaib, let me ask you this. Shoaib. I mean, from what I know about you, you're well connected with all kind of people from different backgrounds. Do you think that divide between based on just because we're let's say you're Muslims or we are Muslims, it's for somehow we've been handled and maybe carved out of the big pie of the Canadian society, and for that reason, that's why when something like this happens, you feel like there's the other side is just try to give excuses and try to be just be patient, don't rush, don't generalize, as if I don't want to say it's okay, but it's not as horrible as it might sound when it hits somebody else. Do you think as a community we are just literally moving in the direction of demonizing this group of people and feeling less concern when these incidents happen? Or
sorry, you cut out there for a second, but from based on what I got from you is that do I feel that the Muslim community is being singled out, right? That's what
more than I would say. I don't want to compare it to others, but I feel it's okay to be Islamophobic, but it's not okay to be this or this or this or this and this and that.
And I think that's just a general thing that's happening in the Western world, right? I think Canada's actually catching up now, right? I remember I was in Europe in 2002, and this is probably the main reason I ended up coming back to Canada and getting involved in politics. Is I saw how much hate was being directed at Muslims in Europe, and it was coming from politicians from all of society, right? It was against immigrants, but it was mostly against Muslims, right? And so and in Canada we're lagging in there, right? Like we were, if you look at, but it's been building up and it's been slow, and it's a lot of this is happening online, right? So Muslims are being targeted, I think, for sure, and I think definitely that Muslims and the Muslim community is being singled out. We are being demonized. People are being desensitized to
desympathized as well. I don't think the sympathy level is
yeah,
like
because they're being
it's just like
it's just like when someone when you watch murder and killing on TV all the time, eventually
yes.
it's not a big deal anymore, right? So when you hear all these negative things about Muslims and Islam day and night on the internet, on TV, subliminally, directly, through movies, through shows, through there's a whole, and some of it is, you could say is just pure ignorance, but a lot of it is actually being done in a targeted way, right? Islamophobia is not.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say. Even some people, like when there's an act of terrorism that committed by somebody who doesn't look like me or you, it seems to me like media and world leaders or community leaders or media and our politicians, they're having a hard time even call it as a terrorism because they try to be so correct before they say it. Otherwise, they're going to be in big trouble. So, but when it comes to Abdul or Ahmad or Yusuf or whomever being part of a mass murder, and I don't want to call it a terrorist attack, it's like you give yourself like you are so relaxed to make it sound like okay, this is another terrorist. Because honestly, like we start to fear. Like, what the hell is this? Like, we hear today somebody did this to a Muslim hijabi, another one did this, it's just like it's started becoming, I don't want to say, God forbid, daily, but at least a weekly events. Every week we have an incident. And I don't want to reach that point where it's going to be okay. It's just normal. It's not normal.
Yeah.
And it's not okay.
And it shouldn't be, right? And like I was saying, I think there's a big effort, right? Because Islamophobia, there's it's a big industry nowadays, right? Like Islamophobia, and there's groups that are out there that are purposefully trying to create more hate, stir the pot, demonize Muslims, demonize Islam, right? They grasp at the lowest hanging fruit, I think, right, when it comes to just randomly grasping at ayats and verses from the Quran that without the context, I'm not a scholar and I'm not going to go into any of those details, right? But
you gotta be careful, buddy. Exactly. You gotta be careful because we have from our own people. They will attack you left, right, and center. My gosh, there's no room.
Yeah, but I'm saying people like that have these ill intentions are twisting things, and then it's become it's normalizing it, right? So now it's like, oh yeah, Muslims are this the other, right? Whereas like Islam, and I know this may sound like I'm not trying to use any cliches, but it's a religion of peace, right? Islam is a religion when you look at the core values of Islam, and of course, right, like and like you were saying.
Hold on. When you say Islam is a religion of peace, even I think that terminology, that phrase, when you say Islam is a religion of peace, I think really this is what I always think about it. And maybe it's going to be, this is a different topic because, okay, I don't want to, maybe I'll have it to another. I have my own point of view about this. Islam is a religion of peace, because I think really whomever put that phrase there, he meant the other way around. And I don't like that way, because Islam is a religion just like any other religion. Okay. And that's one, we are so proud to be a Muslim for sure. But I don't want to associate, Islam and peace, and if it's not like this, that means everything is just going to collapse. I think really this is like a double sword here. But anyway, that's a different topic.
Yeah, no, but I think but like we're saying, the demonizing of Islam and Muslims and normalizing of Islamophobia, especially online, and a bunch of the points you were talking about, like in terms of there's, of course, freedom of speech is an important value that is protected in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's something that Canadians value, and rightfully so, right? Because people should be able to speak their mind. People should be able to voice their differences, right? If someone has questions or concerns, it's fine, right? You can have differences of opinion but when there's a line that between freedom of speech and hate speech, right? And that
Right.
those once that line gets crossed, right? And
But don't you think this is freedom of speech that is now a slogan by the Conservative Party of Canada? I mean, somehow it's a slogan. I've just seen a campaign. It's called freedom of speech. Don't you think that only it's like, okay, this is my freedom of speech, so you have to give me the right to attack Muslims verbally because that's my freedom. I can attack whomever, but I only choose to attack you because your name is Muhammad, or you're wearing hijab, or you look like I had a darker skin, and this and this and all that stuff, and it's okay. But any other things, the freedom of, so it feels to me like freedom of speech somehow has an it got its interpretation is not to wear a mask, to criticize only so-called the lefties, and mainly to attack minorities, and that's freedom of speech.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the point I was trying to make, is that freedom of speech, yes, is important, but hate speech should not be allowed, right? Like when you cross into the line of hate speech, and it's the job of these politicians and for any person in Canada to be able to draw that line and say, look, like once you start inciting hate, there's real consequences to these to the words people say, right? When someone incites hate towards another group, regardless if they're Muslim or Christian or any other faith,
right.
That's when the line gets crossed. I think, right? Because there's real consequences, and you see things that happen today, right? Like you look at the Quebec City attack, or you look at Christchurch in New Zealand, right? Like these people were online. They were listening to a lot of
exactly
hate rhetoric, and they it ended up costing many people their lives, right? It broke families apart, right? So I think drawing that line, and that's where the real the real far right and the real they don't want there to be a line there. They want to say, hey, you can say whatever you want, regardless of the consequences, and that is very dangerous, right? And that's where I think
Shoaib, as a Muslim Canadian yourself, and you're involved, do you think what happened, as far as much as you know, do you think it fit the criteria of a terrorist act, or still?
Yeah, based on what I see, I'd say definitely it's a terrorist attack, right? Like when you're killing innocent people, and especially if it's politically or
in this horrible way.
Yeah, especially if it's motivated by political or ideological reasons, right? Then they're religious. I would say definitely it's terrorism, right? Like just like the Quebec City shooting, that was terrorism, right? Christchurch was terrorism, and I think that, the Prime Minister at that time called it terrorism, right? With the Quebec City shooting, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand called it terrorism, right? Because terrorism's terrorism, regardless if it's a Muslim that does it or if it's a non-Muslim that does it. If it's against a Muslim, if you're killing innocent people, for no reason, that's terrorism, right? And that's what I think. What do you think?
For me, exactly like I said, I don't have to wait for more details and more definitions to fit in than to call it terrorism. And I can compare this with other incidents that happened in the last who knows how many years, which is like within a minute, it's been called terrorism act. Because for me, the horrible, horrific act that took place, I don't care about the definition of terrorism, but that guy literally want to terrorize not only this victim families, but also anybody related to this faith, in my opinion, or literally faith, because it's clearly he did it based on just because they look like belong to a certain faith.
Yeah, and I was basing my answer based on what just based on what I read in the news articles, right? Saying that he targeted those people because of their Muslim faith and didn't care. Like there was a 9-year-old, a 15-year-old, there's children there, there was a senior there. Like it was just horrific, right? And it was very sad, right? So it's been one of those days, right? So I usually don't come on social media that much, eh? So
I was really happy that you joined me tonight, and I really appreciate your 2 cents on that. So our prayers and our all deep thoughts goes to the family, to the victims, and I don't know. I mean, this poor kid now, he kind of just wake up and find all his family is gone. That's going to be like so that's
Yeah.
another battle, that's another struggle, that's another issues, but
And I think from this tragedy, and my hope is that, like, and not just the government, right, but I think like just a full spectrum approach where, to really tackle Islamophobia, and hopefully out of this tragedy, there can be the redoubling of efforts to attack or address Islamophobia and other forms of hate, but especially Islamophobia, because Islamophobia has been increasing, right? Like Islamophobia and it leads to horrific scenes like we saw today, right? So I'm hoping what can happen, and I'm hoping people like us, it's not just, we don't just wait for the government to do things, like we
no, I don't, exactly. I don't think that's what it is.
Neighbors and friends and community groups, and then try to clarify some of the misconceptions and the misperceptions of Islam and Muslims that are out there, and we can try to take this tragedy and build something positive out of it, right? That's
absolutely
my hope.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Shoaib, for joining me. It was always a pleasure seeing you and talking to you, and I really appreciate being here today.
Good seeing you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Take care. Bye-bye. So that was an interesting conversation with Shoaib. He's well connected. So to make it short, or to cut it short, because we can go on and on and on. So I really feel like us, the people, we have to take this, we have to move, we have to increase our talking. I think we have to be truthful to ourselves. Like if we feel like everything is, maybe the prime minister he announced this, the leader of this party did this, and honestly, this is not about the politicians. This is about the people. This is about you and me and her. When you walk down the street, when you walk in the street, and how do you feel? How people look at you? How people labeled you, and how people already treat you just because of this and this and this and that. And as I said, as much as for the last 30, 40, who knows what years, terrorism was associated with certain kind of people, certain kind of look, certain kind of faith, I really think we have to have the guts to acknowledge that we do have terrorism in this country, has nothing to do with Islam and has nothing to do with the minorities. But I really think there's an infestation of problems that exist in the bigger pie. And there's no point of denying it. There's no point of sugarcoating it. There's no point of putting it under the mental health issues, or maybe it's only whatever, because the same argument, I think majority of people are decent, hard-working people, as they say. Majority of Muslims, hard-working Muslims, the same thing, whether you're Muslim or not. All people in general, they are really hard-working, decent citizens. But we have this radical element on both sides, okay? Radicals element that's as my job and your job and my duty and your duty to fight together these radical elements that exist in both sides, in order to get out of this situation we're in. Because if it's gonna continue like this, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. Meaning is us as a minority, or maybe next, who knows what is gonna be really. It's gonna be just like I don't want to say the norm, but it's gonna be okay, just the numbers. So those radicals that exist, that move in their agenda into a vicious attack, whether on this side or on that side, but let's call it what it is. For the last 5 years in North America, in Canada, just let's count all these terrorist acts. Let's do the count for the last 5 years. Don't tell me what happened in Africa and try to blame me for it, and because I'm a Muslim, and that's somebody killed some whatever, and now that's a Muslim terrorism, and I'm here responsible for it, and who knows what that crazy website you go and read and you want to convince me or you want me to feel responsible. I'm talking here in Canada. I'm talking in Canada in the last 5 years. Let's name all the terrorist attacks. Let's name all the hate attacks. Let's name all the discriminations attack. Are they an increase? You bet they are. Is the laws there to protect minorities? I don't think so. Is the politician are doing anything? No, except just give me that beautiful 1 line, 2 line word, and that's and then brush it off. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and there's no room to shy away from it. I really think we need to step our game and try to address it in order to find a solution for it. I want to, if you are listening to me tonight, there is a vigil tomorrow at 8:30 at the Olympic Plaza in downtown. Vigil to support and send vigil. By the way, do you know that the vigil is haram? I heard this today. I'm going to investigate this, but I'm going to investigate it. And that for those, if anybody know that vigil is haram or halal, please enlighten me and educate me. But anyway, that's another fight. So there's a vigil tomorrow in Calgary at 8:30 to go and stand and send your dua and send your salawat. And if you like to be part of the candles things, you could do that. But it's to bring awareness about this Islamophobia, the hate for Muslims, and also show support and send prayers to the families and the victims and the victims' families. 8:30. And also there is another event in Saturday. I don't know the details. I'm just reading the activities that's taking place. So probably going to be another protest / prayer. I don't really know what the title they're going to use. If vigil is haram, so let's see what's the word is going to be for it. So something's going to happen on Saturday in terms of community responses, because really Muslims are in Calgary that I know some of them really concerned, angry, sad, disheartened, and they want not only justice to this family, but they want justice for all these victims that we've been hearing every day, every second day. We hear horrible things here, horrible things there, horrible this. And you know what? And you go on social media and read, it's even worse. So honestly, I think this issue is not going to go away unless we face it head on as a community and not as a minority group. Because in the end, we're minorities. We're not even 3% of the population as a Muslims, but we are 100% Canadian, and that's the fight for Canada, not for one individuals or just a small group. Thanks for watching, listening, keeping up with my talk. I really, hopefully, we're going to continue some form of dialogue, some form of discussions. And I didn't read any comment, so I apologize for not giving the proper attention to your comment, because I really have something to say. And maybe my title was, how do you feel safe as a Canadian Muslims in the way it should, like other Canadian? Yes, maybe I should get more the dialogue happening, but let's call this episode 1, and they're going to be more coming. But let's do our part and let's face it, because it's not going to go away. It's getting worse, and we are the people that we're going to try to fix it. And inshallah, we will. Allah yarham al twafu. We send our prayer to the family and the victims. I mean, to the victims, and also, inshallah, Allah yasabbar ahalihun. This is a tragedy for all of us as a Muslim community, because definitely we feel threat. Definitely we feel been targeted and singled out. That's how I feel, and I'm free to say what's on my mind. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful good night, and may hope tomorrow, inshallah, will be better. Will be some justice or some peace. Let's call for justice now. We need justice for this family. Let's focus on getting justice for this family. And we get injustice not only to this family, but we get injustice to this family and to any families, any victims of the Islamophobia and hate before or it's going to happen. So inshallah, we will prevail as a community. Have a wonderful evening, and I wish you all a good night. Assalamu alaikum.